kept you waiting, huh?
Warning.
This episode has a considerable amount of background noise from unseen forces. Listeners may experience slight annoyance while listening to our conversation. Listener discretion advised.
Fucking kids. All right.
All
We're
right.
back.
Yeah, We're back.
This is attempt 2 at Podcast Living. This is over here. This is Kept You Waiting, huh? Episode 2. This is the homie right here. This is Arze Poetic. I make some YouTube videos, occasional streaming, and I do some music. It's all on the channel. A link will be in the description. And we got the homie over here.
Three Kings. Hello, everybody. They let us do it again. We're excited to be here. I'm excited to be here. This is episode 2, as my partner here just said. I personally like to stream. I like to do YouTube shorts. I like the short videos. Now, recently, it's become more popular. Recently with the whole TikTok thing, so I lean more towards the shorts. Although I did stream a couple days ago, and it was rejuvenating. It felt great, like to be able to get back in front of the camera that you gave me.
Yeah.
And for the plug, by the way. But it was great. I had a great time doing that, and just to do it live, I love to dive in head first and just do it just straight raw, like off the cuff, just handling business. So I enjoy streaming. And currently I am not playing anything popular right now. I'm leaning more on the old games. What are you playing, Arze Poetic?
So damn, right now I'm actually getting myself into the Elden Ring business. You know, I was giving myself some time to see if they would patch out the there's like this massive stutter on consoles, and it's still there.
What do you mean?
Well, like when you go into new areas and you load into new sections, basically like the frame rate chugs.
Oh,
and
no
everything
way.
like for like a couple seconds.
And this is for PS5, correct? I mean,
well,
'cause we have
all
PS
consoles.
all consoles.
Yeah.
So do they have a PS4 exclusive version and then a PS5 and then an Xbox One? And
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because like for some odd reason, I just keep thinking like all the games are being put out on not next gen, but like
the current gen, the new stuff.
Yeah. So they are then.
Yeah, so that one actually is one that's on the old consoles too, the PS4, Xbox One era.
Okay.
And you know, and that might be something to do with it a little bit. But you know, they're that studio, they kind of have their issues when it comes to like that type of performance. The games are I mean, they're top tier games. They're very highly regarded and loved by their communities. Me being one of those people that I've played pretty much all of their games.
And which one is this one?
So this is from Software that made Elden Ring, and so you have they did the Demon Souls, which recently got remade for PS5, and that is PS5 only. You played it briefly.
Yes,
like,
I did.
Yeah.
And I liked it. I love how it plays. I don't know. I like that the mechanics of it.
Yeah.
I guess you could say.
I really enjoy that. You definitely would dig that. But yeah, you know, then they had Bloodborne, Sekiro, the Dark Souls series. But anyways, yeah, you know, so that's what I'm diving into. I've been dabbling a little bit in Insurgency.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Insurgency because I know that's a big deal with you guys. I know you guys are partnering up and playing that, but I did get to play it through SharePlay though, so it was choppy as hell. So it wasn't great 100. Yeah. But I did like it. I'm not gonna lie. I love the realism with it. It's amazing. I know our mutual friend Sam had explained to us about how it's hard to get used to some of the mechanics. You know, I think it's the aiming or the
weapon switch or
the recoil.
Oh yeah.
He said the recoil is a little rough.
Yeah.
Like it's realistic, so you gotta make sure to prepare for that. That kind of calculate.
And the movements are definitely slower. You're not just like switching shit off the top. And so it's definitely more, you know, the pace is a bit slower. But I like that in the game, and I think it's really dope. One thing is just the controls are like interesting. They're not bad. I think they're interesting, but thankfully they have an option to change it to what they call modern settings, and it's more in line.
No way, really?
Yeah, like and I would recommend that for those playing it. But yeah, you know, just that, and then dabbling. You know, I'm always hopping around different games.
You still running a little of the dang it, I forget the name right now. The space one.
The space one.
I was gonna say
you talking about Warframe?
Warframe.
It's been a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I know
yeah.
you and your buddy Phantom play a lot more than you and I do.
Well, we had a couple sessions,
Yeah.
and he's one of those
Shout out to Phantom. I
guys.
know
Yeah, shout out
he's
to
gonna watch
Phantom.
this.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's one of those that's good to have with you when you're playing that game because you can just answer so many questions, and that's that type of game that
That's you. That's you for
but
me.
that's me for you. Yeah.
I
Uh,
contribute nothing to this relationship.
but
So
yeah, but it's not the same when you're not playing with folks. And I know he still plays it, but for me, it's
yeah.
just like a matter of the time that I do have,
Mhm.
and so I haven't been that one hasn't been high on the list lately. But
Yeah.
still dope game.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it's very in depth. Like a lot of the stuff you can do with the characters, and then you can have like the creatures with you and stuff like that. I really appreciated all of that. Or the but I was gonna say before we get to the main topic here, we're just kind of doing a little off the dome as far as what's happening now with the games. And I know I did see something on social media in regards to what was it, Grand Theft Auto just released a redo of the whatever heist, or I don't know what it was called.
Oh, the
One of the
the
missions.
Vespucci
Yeah,
job.
there you go.
Yeah, the
They're still
AKA
cranking them out, huh?
Italian job. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Italian job. Oh, is
Yeah.
that what that is?
That's what that is. That's
Wow,
what
I'm
they're
so
going
slow.
for.
No, but I know that they're still milking that, huh?
They're still milking the shit out of it because it's just so damn popular. It's I think to this day is still the
Highest
highest
selling game.
sold media of all time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Cross
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Movies,
The
music.
thing is, there's never been an issue with Grand Theft Auto, in my opinion. The only thing is like, we kind of touched on this briefly in episode 1. I just feel like there needs to be, they can do so much more instead of just money grabbing on, cash grabbing on some things. I feel like there's a lot more other things. And like I said, I'm going to stand by what I said last episode, which is I would love to let it be more of a career choice. You can do, paramedic, you can be give it some kind of purpose in that sense. I mean, because when I go online, I kind of want to just blow everything up. I'm not going to lie. That's like what I lean more towards. But yeah, so I saw that on social media. I saw them release that. And then as far as it goes, nothing really been. I know that PUBG had an update. I can't even say the full name.
PlayerUnknown's Battleground.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why they title it weird like that. That's strange. Anyways, they just had an update that I just recently played, which isn't too new. I think we played.
We hopped on there. Yeah, no, they're always adding little things like little a map here and there, or
updates.
Little quality of life things. Like I like how they highlight loot that's relevant to you.
Oh, I love that.
I love
they just did
that makes it a lot better off the gate, because that was one of my points of like the inventory management and stuff. Just it makes
it easier,
but it could be better, and I think that that's a good effort towards that.
It's interesting. I know there's no other updates. Anything off the top of the head you can remember update wise? I don't think I don't play Call of Duty anymore like that. At least Modern Warfare. But they did like the Godzilla one and stuff. Yeah. Warzone's super popular still, by the way, which is strange.
Yeah, and it's a little concerning because then it brings the
I
question.
say concerning.
Yeah, because it brings the question of how many resources are they delegating to just that versus everything else,
They're just completely just exempting everything else. They're like, let's focus on Warzone only.
Yeah, so but hopefully, with the Modern Warfare 2 refresh, that's gonna be gonna be
great segue into what we're gonna talk about today, actually. Yeah, the Modern Warfare 2 refresh is what you're calling it. Well,
sort of, yeah. I mean, it's weird because it's the way that the story went. I was just explaining this to my boss at work. Is that the Modern Warfare 2019 Call of Duty is essentially Modern Warfare 0, because if you
Resident Evil 0,
huh? When
Resident Evil, I mean that was its own game, but what I'm saying, I'm just trying. Nah, I'm not.
I actually don't know. Because I didn't play Resident Evil 0, so I don't know where in the storyline it lies.
It's before, obviously, one,
right?
But it definitely gives a lot of like backstory to a lot of the main characters later on. So and so worked with so and so, so it definitely is something you should play if you're interested in playing the whole series. I would start with that one, and then they remastered it.
Yeah, I think there's a remaster.
We can dive into that. Actually, we're pretty close. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about games they need to bring back. Well, at least according to us, games that we'd like them to bring back, remaster, reboot, whatever you want to say. But yeah. So today's episode is that.
Yeah, and so to go in on that, we wanted to sort of cover the definitions because we wanted to clear it up for people. These terms are, I think, now are more regulated or regularly known as what they are, but I think there's still a lot for those that aren't as familiar or don't know what they each mean. So, essentially the main two being remaster and remake. And so, why don't you go in with your take?
I think for me, I more or less gravitate towards the remaster. I believe is when they basically redo the whole game graphic wise, and then they put it out again. It's not anything different to the storyline, anything different, with the character development, anything like that. It's the same game, just better graphics. As far as like a reboot, remake, it would be you're changing some things to the story. I don't have no examples off the top of my head. I mean, I could think of like the Resident Evils. Um, I think the Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes one, where they added better graphics, but they also changed some how some things went about. Maybe am I wrong? What do you think? What's your opinion on that? Because those are my definitions.
Sure.
For remake, remaster, I group everything as like a remake, and
Sure.
I know that's politically incorrect, but I go with that every time I hear like they just did Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
And that would be more or less, in my opinion, that would be like a remake of the same thing. Because it's the same, not story, but it's the same concept, I guess. I don't know if I'm making sense with that, but you want to shed some light on these definitions here?
Yeah, so I'll shed some light on these. And so basically, to go to some of those examples you mentioned, and just a brief definition. So remaster, that's more of, I think of it as the skeletal framework is the same. So the core of the game is the same, and maybe they're updating textures, adding some quality of life things. And so, for instance, if we want to go back to the music world for a second,
there it is.
Tupac, All Eyes on Me, classic album, right?
Yeah.
They did a remastered version of that.
Yes, I remember.
A remaster release. And so it's all the original recordings of him rapping and the beats and everything, but they remaster it to kind of bring out the elements of the sound to a higher degree.
Okay.
And so a remake of All Eyes on Me would actually be, which unfortunately can't happen anymore, but Tupac re-records.
But with the same songs.
Even if it was the same, even if it was the same bar for bar stuff, if he's re-recording it, and maybe they're doing some things with the beat a little bit, maybe they're not, but that's a remake because you're no longer using like what was there. And so like I saw one that was sort of debated online, was like the Spyro. It's essentially the same exact game as Spyro on PS1.
Yes.
However, because they're using a new engine, and the graphics are updated to a degree where it's like it's literally a new engine. They copied the game.
What engine are they using, by the way?
I think that one, I could be wrong on this, but I think that's Unreal Engine 4.
Yeah, I heard that too. I thought, I was just double checking. I didn't want to say it out loud, but that's what I heard.
So situations like that, or like Metal Gear Solid, the Twin Snakes, they actually didn't change anything story wise.
Yeah.
But the graphics got completely redone into the level of Metal Gear Solid 2's quality.
Okay.
And then they actually had all of the voice actors redo all of the lines, but they were pretty much the exact same. And there was just some slight differences in the cutscenes, like
he's tinkering going on there.
Yeah, he's doing backflips and shit. It's all like Matrix Reloaded all of a sudden. Man. Just in some scenes, but like other than that, it's the exact same game. But because they did all those changes, that is a remake, not a remaster.
Sorry to jump in here, but have you tried the Matrix game? I think you said you did.
You're talking. I did Enter the Matrix.
Yes, Enter the Matrix. I believe that. I thought that was the only one.
No, there was the Path of Neo also.
Oh, I played both of them.
Oh, nice.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play the Path of Neo one.
Wildly underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, Enter the Matrix, very underrated for its time.
Oh
And yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful game that they definitely need to bring back.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And you know, we got a little bit of taste of that with the
Yes.
Enter the Matrix. Actually, sorry, that's not that. It's the Matrix Reawakened or something like that. It's a tech demo on PS5
Oh, with the Unreal Engine 5?
with Unreal Engine
Yeah,
5.
that was pretty sick. When you so
Yeah.
Arze Poetic here showed us a quick demo, which is accessible to anybody, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you have a PS5, or it's actually, I believe, out on PC now, so you can, you know, check out the Matrix Awakened or whatever it is.
It's called something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just look it up. I'm pretty sure you can find it on
Hmm.
any Google search or whatnot. But man, yeah, he's not joking. It was pretty next level,
Yeah.
very next level, and it was awesome. The graphics,
Right.
Unreal Engine 5 is going to be crazy.
Oh yeah, it's
I
gonna
mean,
be
it's
nuts.
just that textures, everything
Yeah.
was insane. And I know you guys have seen, or whoever's watching or listening, has seen those videos where they, if you're interested in that type of thing, where they rebuild like a city or something using Unreal Engine, and it's mind blowing what you can do with that engine. And then now it's at Unreal Engine 5, which
Hmm.
is just adds that much more, you know, avenues to play from and go down. So, as I've heard, Dead Space, they're remaking it, remastering it,
Remake.
remake. Oh, they're gonna remake it.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, they're gonna remake it, I guess. I've seen some stuff on social media, some screenshots, so a little bit of gameplay. I haven't seen a lot of
Oh
gameplay
yeah.
on it. I'm excited. Dead
Yeah.
Space, for all you uninitiated, is a space game.
Space survival horror.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ezra got the long play on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've played it through and it's phenomenal. The bosses are difficult. It's just your typical challenging game. And
Yeah.
I know Dead Space 3 was when they integrated
Mm.
the uh-oh, you got the
Yeah. The
it
face.
was
I
like
know. Yeah. That's when they brought on multiplayer, and then it became more of an action game.
it was
And
real choppy though. Multiplayer was choppy as hell.
yeah, I played the demo, and I was like, yeah, it's not for me. But they lost the essence, I think, of what made the first two so great.
Yeah.
With the first two basically being Resident Evil in space.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah.
basically.
The comparison would be
Yeah.
Resident Evil in space, except more like Doom, correct? You don't think it was
Mm,
like Doom? Like
no.
monster wise.
Well, I mean, it's aliens and shit, so they look different and stuff. But no, Doom's a straight up like fast paced action shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I meant yeah,
You
like
meant not
as
you
far as
meant like,
monsters wise.
oh, I see, like
Like the
designs,
people are designs exactly.
creature designs.
Creature designs because like the
Yeah.
people were transformed into the monsters.
Mm, yeah, yeah. It's I mean, it's aliens basically, just to throw that image out there, because Doom is like their whole thing. I think a lot of it's like coming from hell or whatever or
Oh
something.
yeah.
So they're more of like demons in that sense, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken.
Hmm.
I didn't really play Doom like that, but that's the vibe that they're going for anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, the remakes, so it's a full on remake. So just to reiterate that, you know, they're not just updating the visuals. It's like a full on, you know, looks like a brand new game.
Yeah.
You know, they have all of these effects. They recently dropped a video, I think a couple weeks ago, where they're showing off the new like fog effects and
Yeah, I
things.
seen that video.
Yeah, so it's gonna be like next level.
Oh my god, it's gonna be even scarier than what it was before when it first came out. Because I
Yeah.
remember playing that. We played it. We had it, and we played it at night always, and we made sure to get the whole vibe right. We made sure to play it at night. We made sure, you know, played it as loud of a volume as you could. And then it was intense. It was intense, and it's there to me. There were a lot of jump scares in there, and no warnings, just like bam, something happens. But the storyline was really good, and for the time, and I really enjoyed playing it. I really did. And the second one too. The second one was good. Obviously, the first one, it's hard to beat the first one, but the second one was pretty good. Third one, I didn't like it like the rest of the people. Third one kind of lost a lot of steam for me personally. Um, and then yeah, I'm excited that they're bringing it back. And they're gonna remake it, and that the graphics are gonna be even that much sweeter. So I'm excited for that.
So we thought it'd be a good idea to discuss games that we want to see brought back, and just sort of go down a list and we'll probably bring this back as a recurring episode because there's just so many out there, and as time goes on, we'll want to see more things brought back. But why don't you go off with your first choice on a game that you'd like to see brought back?
Oh man, I'm excited about this list I've compiled. It's a very doozy one. It's pretty deep. My roster goes deep here. I got a lot of games on the deck. But of course we're gonna limit that today, and we'll have reoccurring episodes with our takes on that. But first choice for me, number one draft pick would have to be Twisted Metal 2. Now it's a throwback. Now I'm not sure if everybody had a chance to play it. Twisted Metal, just to give you a little background on it. Twisted Metal 2, well, there's one, obviously. I didn't play one as much, and it was a little more clunkier. Graphics were pretty much on par with number 2. It's a PS1 game, so you can imagine, very pixelated, very choppy. I loved that growing up. I mean, we don't know the difference as kids, but Twisted Metal 2 was definitely the one for me. It is a multiplayer game where you and it could be co-op. It could be co-op, and you can have you and your second player go against all the NPCs on one map. And I can't remember how many enemies were there. I think it was either 8 or 10.
But to further explain, what are you doing in this game? What makes Twisted Metal Twisted Metal?
Let me unpack that. So basically, Twisted Metal is all these convicts that have a second chance at I guess life and walking away scot free. They make a deal with Calypso, and Calypso's like the bad guy that can organize all them getting out just to compete in this like competition. It's like more or less like Tekken, where they're brought in to do, or Mortal Kombat, where they're brought in to do a big old tournament, and whoever wins, last man standing or last woman standing, goes free, whatever. So Twisted Metal, you have each player has a background, a story to why they were locked up and things like that, whether it was by mistake or they're really bad criminals. So in this game, you can choose between any of those characters. I believe it's 10 or so. I can't remember. But you get a good variety of selection of players. And what you're going to do is you're thrown into a tournament and you play each map. I don't know how many maps. I can't remember. It's been a while, you guys. But each map has its own uniqueness about it. There's snow, it's Paris, and all of the area is able to be destructed. You can blow things up. You can pick up other. It's kind of like a weird take on what is the game? The Mario Kart. Mario Kart.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's like Mario Kart where you could pick up like
power ups and
power ups. You could pick up bullets.
Right.
The cars are equipped with M16s or heavy machine guns. You're shooting off the sides, and those are.
But it's basically just vehicle combat.
Vehicle combat. Sorry, I don't know why I'm just not explaining what it is. It's vehicle combat. It's a competition, and your goal is to kill the other opponents. But yeah, it's vehicle combat, and your vehicle plays a huge part in how you perform. Each player has, or each bad guy or whatever has a vehicle that has a special ability with it. My favorite character was Axel, was a bald-headed guy that was some weird way, very crazy way attached to his vehicle. His arms and legs were attached physically to the vehicle, and he had 2 big wheels, and he would just roll around. And it was the funniest thing to see him in a map, because like the AI is like, for some odd reason with this game, the AI was like crazy, or the NPCs were like crazy hard.
Yeah.
And like they challenge, like I can't even explain to you how many times I would lose unintentionally. Like it's not where nowadays where you got to kind of put it on extra hard, because they kind of give you a chance to keep going and making it easier kind of. In this game, it was like it was level 10 hard immediately, and you would die at least 5 times trying to get to that point of winning a round at least. And then if you won a couple rounds, then you go to the final boss, and that was another story. I mean, the guy, they made sure you were challenged in this game. But like I said, it was on the PS1. Graphics were very pixelated, very
so there were other ones in this series, right?
They were.
So what makes you pick 2
Out
as
of
a
all
game
of
to
them.
bring back? Yeah.
Number 2 to me was special. That's why I want it to be brought back, but
Yeah.
I think that it also they really went in depth on each character's story,
Mm.
and I liked that about this particular game, as the other ones more or less focused on, obviously they wanted to make the graphics better, but
Mm.
once they added that, they kind of took away from the story
Mm.
in itself. And then also the maps in this one, the second one, they had Paris, like I said, they had, I can't remember, they had a bunch of like Washington DC, they had a bunch
Yeah.
of landmarks, but
Yeah.
just to think about that and what you could do with a newer engine, I guess, or just to kind of beef it up. I would be excited to see other landmark areas or cities or whatever you want to
Mhm.
call it, capital cities or whatever,
Mhm.
added into it. And then just what it would look like, just graphic wise and weapon wise, what other weapons you can
Yeah.
add, because I think you're pretty limited on the PS1 on what, like, you can, as far as what the graphics goes
Right.
and what you can add. Like, you can only have a machine gun constantly shooting, which is fine. And then maybe I think they only give you selection of 3 different types of weapons, like a heat-seeking missile and then a
Okay.
regular unguided missile, and then
Yeah.
your special ability. And even with your special ability, that would be awesome to see that in next gen consoles.
Yeah, definitely. And so really it's just the maps had a very iconic vibe to them, and
Yes.
that basically you felt they did justice to the characters and their stories. And
Yeah.
so when you're thinking of Twisted Metal brought back,
Yes.
you want to see that. You want to see like the stories, you want to see these these iconic maps, and but to the
Yeah.
next level.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big
Yeah, that
time.
sounds cool.
And just the I don't know, just to see what I know they redid. I can't remember which one, but they redid recently. Maybe 3 years ago, they redid one of the Twisted Metals. I can't remember which one, but they remastered it. But
Hmm.
it was active for only so long, and then they snatched it away. It was free, I believe.
Oh.
And my older brother showed it to me, and I was like, "This is awesome. This reminds me of when we were younger, but better graphics." And it was online, so it was even more wilder because these games were offline. They were offline, and you didn't really have that competition element to it. Besides with the NPCs, you got to go against them, and like I just explained, they're very difficult, so they basically felt like you were playing somebody online. But to add that element with next gen as well, and just to see the old generation versus the new generation, how we all would play, would be awesome element to it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would like to see that because
Yeah.
that was a franchise I didn't really get the chance to play or put the time in to give it a try. And so I'd like to give that a go because there was one vehicle combat game, just to briefly mention, that I really liked, and I think it was like shit, I'm forgetting the name of it, but
Which one?
it was on PS2,
Okay.
and it was
Road Warrior.
Motor Mayhem. I think that's what it was called.
I
They
think I played that once. It was a long time ago, dude.
Yeah, they had you had your dudes in the motorcycles, and then the big car guys, and but yeah, heat seeking missiles, and you can
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah,
power
yeah.
ups.
Mm-hmm.
You can jump up on. They also had some vertical elements to the levels where you can go on higher points and then drop down, and
Yeah,
ramps and shit.
yeah,
And that was really fun, And they actually, with the PS5 launch, or shortly after, they brought back. Well, they didn't bring back, but there was this new game. It was like Battle Stars,
yeah,
Mayhem, or something.
yeah. I think I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was free for a certain month, so I gave it a try, and
How'd you like it?
it was cool. I mean, they had a cool element to it where you can actually hop out the car and like
Yeah.
run on walls and shit, and then hop into
No
another car.
way. That's cool. I like
So,
that.
we should maybe give it a go because it was cool.
And
But
that's kind of similar to, like, so if not that they're in comparison, but it's like a strictly vehicle game as far as like Rocket League is. Like with
yeah,
Rocket League, you're not getting out the car. Now I know you just mentioned that game and you can get out the car. With Twisted Metal, that's what made it special as well. Growing up, Twisted Metal 2, obviously, specifically that game, um, made it special to me was the fact that you stayed in the car and there was no getting out. You didn't even see what the characters looked like until they showed the cutscene, or you
mm,
picked that player and then they showed their little backstory, and then the illustrations was amazing. in the
Right.
game where they show the little cards, and then it was the one where they would show like the picture and then get picture and then give you the written words below it and then go to the next. It's like a slideshow almost.
Yeah.
But I love those type of how would I say that? I love those type of story mode where they set that up
Oh, yeah,
like that,
yeah.
where it's not really animated or moving.
Yeah. They did that with a lot of fighting
Yeah,
games.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Tekken was like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So obviously that's my
Yeah.
thing.
Ah, that's dope. That's dope. I mean, I think there actually,
Mm,
well, we'll have to fact check this one, but I think there actually is a new Twisted Metal in development. Not
yeah,
100% sure,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
so you may very well get that
That wish would be
desire. Yeah,
granted.
that wish.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What about you? What's one for you? What's your number one draft pick in a sense?
So I mean, of course, I got a lot of choices, a lot of options, and this is probably my number one choice. And I have to say, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Wow, wow. Big
Yeah,
hitter right there.
and I part of me was like, oh yeah, for the podcast, but whatever. But no, I mean, literally, like, it's my favorite Metal
Hands
Gear
down, yeah.
Solid game, and it's just it would be just so awesome to see them bring it back. And then for those that aren't too familiar with the Metal Gear Solid series,
Very storied franchise, by the way.
yeah, very, very big stealth action genre, or defining experience. In that they broke a lot of waves, made a lot of waves, I should say, in that genre, and kind of inspired a lot of other games to do what they do. And so in this one is a prequel. It takes place in the 60s during the Cold War, and you're playing as Big Boss, the original Snake, and you're going in there to basically take down your mentor to prove the CIA wasn't behind some shady shit, and we'll just leave it at that.
But they were.
But they were, the roots go real deep in this one, and there's
Yeah.
plot twist after plot twist. The stories in these games are just amazing, and but the not the comment, the gameplay as a whole
Yeah.
is just next level, because this one expanded on the already great AI and stealth mechanics that were already brought to a next level with Metal Gear Solid 2 from 1, but then 3 enhanced that even further, to the point where like you have guards like radioing in with each other and stuff, and though they did that in 2, you could like shoot their radios and stuff,
Hmm.
and they might have been able to do that in 2 too,
Yeah,
but
you were in Sons of Liberty. Yeah, you
yeah,
were.
yeah,
You were. I
right,
remember doing it on the ship. You would
right.
be shooting a snake. You would shoot their hip, and it would have the radio there, and it would kill the radio. Yep, yep.
That's true, that's true, but I think one that they did do is that you could shoot their hands, and then they couldn't use their primary
Yeah, that
guns.
was a game changer. That
So
was way different. Yeah,
stuff like that, and the fact that you're in the jungle now, which is completely different from the first games. And so you have this whole camo system where you can change your camouflage, and you have like a rating of how invisible you are. And then also you have a stamina system where if it's too low, it affects your aim and your energy, and and so you have to like hunt and eat food in the jungle. It was just,
you can get sick.
you could get sick from eating bad shit, and then you
Yeah,
could even capture things like snakes and venomous spiders and throw them at guards and shit. It was just a
I
next
never did
level.
that. I don't know why I never did
Oh
that. I
yeah,
didn't even know that was a function, to be
yeah,
honest.
and that's the crazy thing about this game. But honestly, all the Metal Gear games, but this one in particular has
Yeah,
so many um hidden mechanics that most people like don't even know about. But like if you look up some videos and stuff, like there's actually a couple videos I think that's like a hidden secrets of Metal Gear Solid 3, and they do that for 2 also. And
yeah,
there's just so much to them. But the reason I'd like to see that, one of the many reasons is like it's definitely my favorite. I felt like they reached a very, very good combination of story and gameplay here, and it's almost works perfectly as a standalone title, even where if you never play any Metal Gear Solid game. Um, I mean, though the number 1 and 3, I would say, are ones that you could just go in
yeah,
and play.
yeah.
Number 2 is great, but you really want to play number 1 first, because it has a lot to do with the story in number 1, and number 4 is like the tying together of everything, and then number 5 is kind of like some, it's got the best gameplay of the series, but the weakest story, and it's sort of on its own corner with that. But I would really love to see them bring it back because it's just a monumental experience, and they already have the Fox engine. Well, Konami unfortunately owns the rights to it, but
Yeah.
which is sad because to they did actually release a remaster for these games, which they should do again because it's unavailable on current consoles.
Yeah.
But what Konami ended up doing,
and Konami is
sorry, Konami is basically the publisher for these Metal Gear Solid games,
for the
and
entire series or just
the entire series. They
so
own the
yeah.
rights to it.
Yeah.
Mega Corporation. They own the rights to a lot of these games. And unfortunately, the original creator has since separated, and that's Hideo Kojima, has since separated from Konami. And so the likelihood of them really bringing this franchise back to its former glory,
It's not going to happen.
it's just not gonna happen. And
That's unfortunate.
the best they could do is remakes since the groundwork is already there.
Yeah.
And they actually sort of flexed and showed that they actually can remake this game because what they did
Yeah.
is for those that don't know, pachinko machines or pachi slots, they're basically a casino type of game that I think they're big in Japan, Korea, and probably other countries. And they actually made a Metal Gear Solid 3 themed pachinko machine. And what they did was they completely remade and reimagined these cutscenes from the original game,
Wow.
and these beautiful, beautiful, well produced versions that brought everything. It just looks amazing. And I a lot of the gaming community that is into Metal Gear Solid and are big fans of this game in particular were just sorely disappointed because these cutscenes look so amazing even to this day. Um, Yet there was no gameplay, there was no concrete evidence that they were actually going to do this for a re-release or a remake.
And he had control of that,
Uh,
of the pachinki machines. He gave the
no,
go ahead for that, or they kind of went on
so
their own to do that.
this was after Kojima had separated from Konami.
Oh wow.
So this is like them just dragging the game name in the dirt, and
Wow.
just like
This
it.
is what we could do, but we're not gonna.
This is what we could do, but we're gonna put it on a casino machine.
Eesh,
You
that's
know,
a yeah. Whoa.
and thankfully for the internet and people who are lucky enough to go check these out, we
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of this footage from those machines.
Yeah.
And it really is incredible, and it's like a whole nother like a true remake of everything because it's remade in the Fox engine, which Kojima had developed in his team, but unfortunately Konami owns the rights to. And they're just in the shitter as a publisher because they haven't really been releasing
Anything?
anything really. They also own the Castlevania franchise.
Oh jeez.
Just as to throw that out there. And
Yeah.
when's the last time they made like a proper Castlevania
It's
game,
been a
right?
it's been a minute.
They've done
It's
some
been
like really
forever, not
re-releases.
never. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done some re-releases and remasters and stuff, but like that's honestly the best they can do because when they did, after Kojima separated, they did actually try to make another Metal Gear Solid game. It was
Yeah.
called Metal Gear Survive or Metal Gear Solid Survive,
Oh wow.
and it was terrible.
Yeah, and you played that.
I
Remember
played
you
that
telling
because
me that?
there was like a brief demo available for like a couple weeks or something. It was like a
Yeah.
beta or some sort, and it basically just took Metal Gear Solid 5, that skeleton of gameplay,
Mm-hmm.
and they made it into like a zombie game, and you went in some other dimension and everything, and it completely destroyed what the game meant, and it just took a
Drag
hard
the name
turn.
through the mud
Drag
again.
the name through the mud. It wasn't even as fun to play because they just
No.
had all these different mechanics that weren't well done, and
It's a shell of itself almost, right?
it's a shell of itself, and
That's
so
sad.
it's sad. Who knows what we'll see. I mean, I think they're coming up on the 35th year of Metal Gear Solid anniversary this year,
Wow.
and we'll likely see nothing for that,
Oh,
unfortunately.
that's terrible. I really wish they would do something for that because it's such a polarizing, series,
Mm,
and the franchise I love, and I grew up with, and we touched on this in our first podcast episode, but
yeah.
it's very devastating because I hold those games, um close to my heart because I grew up with those. So yeah, that sucks. That's no fun.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's just because I love stealth genres are among my favorite in the genre space, and
Oh yeah,
so
yeah,
and
big
Metal
time.
Gear is just that game. When it comes to that, and the story, and just it's a big piece of my life. I'd say this
Yeah,
series, and I would love to see them bring that back
of course, of course.
at the very least, and we get a remaster for current consoles.
Oh man, that would be.
I got it on my PC, but it's like more people need to be able to experience this,
Yeah,
and they need to be accessible on PS4 and PS5, and it's currently not because side note, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 have actually been taken down because they lost the rights to this historical footage that was in the games.
oh
As
Jesus.
you know, like
Yes,
they actually gather real footage from the real world, and they so it's like
they added into the clips the
yeah, they add it into cutscenes because
cutscene. Sorry, I meant to say.
it's basically historical fiction and political fiction because they're talking about things like John F. Kennedy's assassination and the
Yeah,
whole Cuban Missile Crisis, all of this stuff, and they're actually putting footage for these incidents and things. And because the rights had expired to this footage, they had to take down these games from all storefronts.
yeah,
And Konami has been dragging ass on renewing those rights, which is what they should do at the very least,
yeah,
so then people can still access them again. But you know, that's the sad state of the Metal Gear Solid franchise, and 3 in particular. A great example of what it could be reduced to a casino machine.
yeah.
So what about you? What's your number 2 choice?
Oh man, this is like I said, I put a lot of thought into this list. But number two, I want to have a chance to go back later in future episodes, if they give us that much time, to go back and kind of revise lists. But my number two choice, big one for me, Syphon Filter for the PS1 through the PS3. They made a handful of games throughout that course. But PS1, Syphon Filter 1, definitely my second choice. It is a third person shooter stealth game. It's laid out the same with a bunch of missions. Actually, they had a lot of missions in this one game. The graphics, PS1 graphics, looking main character looking like a thumb with hair, and game was published by 989 Studios, which is no longer around. But I believe the developer is still around.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of them, but I know they've done some games. They've done some Twisted Metal games.
Right. The developer's Bend Studio, which most
Mm-hmm.
recently did Days Gone.
Oh, Days Gone. Yeah, we just talked about that.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah,
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 and off mic we talked about that a little bit,
yeah,
but the publisher I guess was actually a subdivision of Sony, so
yeah,
technically in a way they're still there, in that they could bring this back, and I there may not have been rumors about this being brought back.
yeah. And so Siphon Filter was definitely awesome. I loved it growing up playing it. You know, it had the guns, the blood. I loved it as a little boy growing up. Um, the game, the story that went with the game was awesome. You know, you play as like a government agent, and you had to try to bust up this German international terrorist and go through and find all his bombs, chemical bombs he's planted in each level or each area of the game, and you progressively went to different areas of the U.S. to
Oh,
go
nice.
find these bombs, and you worked with the bomb kind of task force that helped. You had to locate them and then let them know, hey, look, it's here. He has a partner, Leon, that helped you. She was another agent as well, but she was mainly in your microphone, or not microphone, but your headset, and kind of giving you directions and things like that. But I loved it because it was a stealth game, which I like, similar to Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Stealth action, and you would go around and stop these bad guys from blowing the world up, blowing the US up, I guess, in a sense.
Nice.
And yeah, I loved it. It was great. It definitely was vast. It had a lot to do. a lot of enemies, and the guns were awesome. I thought they did a pretty good job at integrating a bunch of different guns.
So, just to get a little more out of this,
Yeah,
that's actually another franchise I never really played.
yeah.
Which is crazy considering I love stealth games as I was mentioning earlier. But what makes this stand out for you? Because I definitely always wanted to play it. I think I briefly played it at a friend's house, but what about this gameplay, the action? Is it the stealth, particularly?
I like
You
the
know,
stealth. The stealth
yeah.
was where it was at. You could technically beat a level at any point by just stealthily going around with your silenced pistol and taking headshots and then
Oh,
making your way
nice.
through the entire game that way. Or you can be guns a blazing, go through with a grenade launcher and, tear things up. But you basically your best bet would to definitely be very stealthy throughout the whole mission, and not raise any flags, red flags at least, and accomplish it that way. I think there were optional objectives, like if you were to handle it stealthily, you
Right.
would get that. There was no reward system, like you weren't going to get like an unlocked gun or nothing, but
Uh,
it was still great to be able to sneak by and not encounter as many enemies as you would.
that's cool.
Usually, every map or every mission wouldn't end with a boss battle. It would kind of just segue into another part of the map and or just entirely different character. Oh, well, not character. This one, they had 4 entries, I believe, in the game,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and the first 3 were spread out through different consoles. So the first one was on PS1.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, I believe, was on PS2, and it was a dual disc one. It was one of those ones where
Oh,
it was thick, like you had 2 games,
yeah.
2 discs to put in. And I think that was one of the game changers. The only reason why I lean more towards one is because obviously it has a bigger, it's
The
closer to my
impact.
heart as I grew up. We played the hell out of this one. Like we played it so often. I've beat it so many times. I can't even imagine um anybody else surpassing me at beating it that many times. But I love, like I said, the stealth, the action, and then just the storyline was amazing.
Nice.
To be able to be like a hero, a savior of, our country and do all that. As a
Yeah.
young boy, I loved that. I was,
Yeah.
but also just the characters and the bad guys. Like the bosses were challenging, and you had to definitely make sure you were smart about how you came about playing them and things like that. um, it wasn't until the second entry that you were able to play different characters.
Oh, okay.
In this one, you start as Gabe Logan, and you played him throughout. Um, but the game felt like it went on forever. I mean, it was one of those games where it didn't feel short. Like there was
Really?
no action, or it was lacking in anything. It was very long, and most levels had different areas of the map. So it would, for example, there's a subway mission.
Right.
You run that whole course. By the end of that, something goes wrong. One of the bombs detonates. It blows the whole subway up. Now you have to escape the subway while it's on fire. There's guys coming at you. My favorite weapon of choice in this game was the taser, the hand taser.
Oh, nice.
Very wildly unrealistic, by the way, because you would shoot it. Actually, it wasn't a hand taser. It was more or less a I don't know, a shooting taser.
Oh, yeah. It's like a taser gun.
Yeah, taser gun.
Yeah.
And so you would shoot the taser gun from X amount of 900 feet away. It didn't even matter, 2 miles away, and you would shoot the taser, hit the guy. It didn't matter how far he was, as long as you had a cursor on him and you would
Yeah.
hit him. You could hold it until he caught on fire and started screaming. And I think for me, one of the things was like the sound effects in the game,
Oh, yeah.
the gun sound effects, and then just the sheer terror of the terrorists that you were going against. The noise it would make when you light them on fire is pretty graphic. But each level varied, and there was a backstory to each level that I loved. I loved when they're that in depth. You had to go to the catacombs in France. You had to go to a snow level in like Russia. They had helicopters. It was just so much thrown at you at once.
Nice.
And the thing I love the most, and the reason why most of these games are PS1 for me, is because of the fact that they were challenging. I feel nowadays games aren't as challenging as they used to be. Plus, there's a lot of people out there that kind of spoil it and tell you how to the easiest way to go about this or hack it or whatever. Find a special this or that. Takes the fun out of it. When you were a kid growing up, you had none of that. You had to just play it through and figure it out.
Right. And the other thing to that is that now, where we are, whether these games are more challenging or not, is we have that past experience behind us. So we can always think like, oh yeah, this is like when I played blah 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 and I had to do this.
Yeah.
So we're naturally better at gaming than we were back then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now as adults, grown men, we're like, yeah, it's easy. But for us, it's interesting, or well, for me, just kind of go right back to what I was just saying about the gameplay also, is for me, this was the first game where you had to follow the objective. You couldn't just, stray or do whatever you wanted to do, and also you would have to figure things out. There were missions, the catacomb mission, for example, you'd have to pay attention and listen to each cutscene, because if you missed something, oh, you were stuck there forever. I was stuck on the catacombs mission for like 3 weeks because we couldn't figure, because we totally blew right by the cutscene that told us exactly how to go about what to do. And we're stuck at a gate and we're standing there and we're like, okay, so what do we do? Long story short, you had to execute like one of the monks, or I don't know what the heck he was, some religious figure. And you had to do it in such a way to where the guards would come and then you would have to grab the key cards from them by killing them, da 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 da. But it's things like that that really like kind of challenged you. And of course, like you said, now as adults, you can kind of look at it differently and be like, oh, well, probably would be able to pick up that a little bit. But I felt like with these type of games too, though, that they put that effort in there. I feel like nowadays it's more aimed at different things.
Right. And they're not so now most games you can press a button and you know exactly what your objective is.
Yeah.
And so back then it was more of a puzzle element going to it, because you couldn't just bring up the menu and go, what am I doing again? You had to really be in it and sort of absorbed in the world. And so it sounds like they designed this game with that in mind, that you were basically sitting there and you're understanding what's going on for you to solve these puzzles. And also, kind of similar to your first choice, it sounds like they had a lot of iconic levels. And that kind of spanned all over the place. So,
and I love that they had Washington D.C. and like I said, they had the catacombs and wherever that is, France. I don't know.
Subway.
And then the subway in New York and things like that. And it really, I love that, because like, I mean, I didn't travel a lot when I was younger. I stayed home, or we had school and stuff like that. But to be able to kind of live vicariously through a character in a video game was awesome to me. And I love that. And just, like I said, the gameplay and the story captured me immediately. And, I love that you're a hero in a sense, and you're going to run through. But I thought the graphics, although they were PS1 graphics, I thought they did a pretty good job on them.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, even as we have all this, updated graphics and everything, Unreal Engine 5 and all this, you look back and this still holds. It holds tough.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's like we were joking about as we were looking this game, the gameplay of, they look like Lego people, like their faces, and or like thumbs with hair.
Thumbs with hair is the best one.
Yeah, and it is kind of funny, but at the same time, if you have that context of when it was released, and which I think this one was 99, right?
Yeah.
It was at the time it was pretty cutting edge.
Yeah. And I think, and like I said, a lot of these provide a lot of nostalgia for me, and that's why I choose them so high on my list. And you'll get a lot of these in the future podcasts we do with this reoccurring theme. You'll get a lot of those for me, but I hope that I can reach one or two people where they can go back and either watch a walkthrough on YouTube, or they can somehow, some way get an emulator and get these games going.
Oh yeah.
And just have that experience. Because for me nowadays, and I've mentioned this, it's hard for me to get involved in a storyline of the newer games now. And maybe it's just because I haven't found one, but I like the stealth action shooter adventures.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think that's part of our goal with the podcast and the things we do with the videos we make and whatnot, is like reaching people that of course appreciate and already know these things, but
Yeah.
also those that don't, and they're kind of like, what is this? And like,
Yeah.
let me dive in,
Oh,
or
I
let me
love
go
that.
play that. Let me,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
sometimes even for shits and giggles, I
Yeah.
like to go back and look at games that I played growing up, even now, and go and thank goodness for YouTube. Look through and see the walkthroughs of the games I played growing up, and I'm like, man, I still would rock that. I still would, because
Yeah.
it's about the simplicity too as well. But I felt like there was more passion involved,
Mm-hmm.
and I could be wrong, but I felt like the older games, I felt like they were very passionate about what they put out because they had only one chance. And
Yeah.
a lot of these series, but series I said that all wrong. A lot of the series and franchises, they had this one chance, and they were
Yeah.
either, I mean, I can't really say they were smaller studios, or not studios, but developers. I don't know,
Yeah.
but in a sense, some of these games aren't, you know, big deals. They're not huge, and they
Right.
have this one opportunity to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Let's just knock it out."
It had more of a naturally like indie flavor to it,
Yeah,
because it was it gaming at that time didn't quite make the itself the medium that it was, and that, like, a lot of people still viewed it negatively, or like that it wasn't real art.
yeah,
Whereas now it's like you can't really dispute the fact that it is such a huge monumental, like a monolithic medium,
yeah,
where it makes the most revenue out of any media. And now, to that point though, things are getting more saturated, and you have these studios of hundreds of people that are making these games, and in some cases they throw things in there just to try to make what they call the gotcha elements, to
yeah,
make cash grabs and things like that. So I totally vibe with what you're saying on that, like, sort of the passion and stuff. Like, while it's still there in many games today, and you can definitely find it when you're looking at the AAA space, or like the mainstream
yeah,
games,
yeah,
you could definitely get a sense that sometimes, at least for some of these titles, that the passion may not always be there, or that maybe like the guy who did the art design is super passionate about it, but then you got the guy doing the gameplay progression, throwing all these other things to kind of get you to do these micro transactions and things,
yeah, yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what I guess I miss the most, is not having all that, the
Yeah.
microtransactions in this, in a game, and just running it through, and being
Yeah.
challenged that way without having to, buy the DLC, you guys, or
Yeah.
hey, buy this fancy gun or this outfit, or hey, you want to emote? What's up?
Yeah.
So, um, for me, that's why I choose these games. But definitely, if you get an opportunity to look at the walkthroughs, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was a point where I did go back, a little bit older, maybe 2 years after the fact, after I finished the game like 5 million times, and I went back with my handy dandy cheat code central. I
Yeah.
googled it, I looked it up,
GCC.
see, and I looked it up, got me some good olds, and went back into the game, and cheated my whole way through. So
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I
Yeah.
think one, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be 100 with everyone here. I'm pretty sure we had to do that for that catacombs mission we're stuck on for 3 weeks. I think we didn't get it. We weren't the smartest kids. And we just said, screw it, we'll go ahead and cheat our way through this one. So we skipped that level. We did the good old level skip on that bad boy. But yeah, so that's my second choice, Syphon Filter. Not to disrespect 2 or 3. 2, the double disc, amazing. 3 was awesome because they actually went back and told it was like a prequel to the whole series. And
Right.
I just was in love with that game. But for me, number 1, definitely hit her on my list for sure.
Nice. Nice. Nice.
So, Arze Poetic, what's your number 2? I'm curious.
So number 2 choice, I have to go with Dissidia Final Fantasy.
Wow.
Those that don't know, Dissidia, well, of course, let me touch on the Final Fantasy series real quick.
For rookies like me.
For real rookies, they're coming out with number 16
Wow.
pretty soon, and so that tells you how long they've been in the business. I think late 80s is the first one.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, and so, they're traditionally role-playing games, and for a lot of it has been turn-based RPG, but the later ones have more real-time action.
I'm sorry to interrupt. And when you say turn based, you
Ah,
meant like you select what button is going to be the next attack, correct?
yeah.
Or
So normally, you're fighting an enemy, or however, and you
yeah,
have your party with you, or your solo. It depends on the situation, but basically, you're selecting what move you want to do. Do you want to attack? Do you want to defend? You want to do a magic spell?
And it
Do you want to
coincides with what button? So like triangle's going to be like a
uh
high strike or something like that, or
no, I mean for the later ones,
okay,
they do kind of some stuff like that. Like for instance, they actually, though I'm not using that as my game here, but Final Fantasy VII did get a remake,
yeah,
and that they actually it was turn based in the beginning, and they made it more of an action RPG. So you're actually pressing square and stuff to attack. And I think triangle you can switch to a different like style of attacking, but
yeah,
then you have these like moves that you can do outside of that too, like these magic abilities and
like
things like
cast a
that.
spell or something.
Yeah, and so in that sense it is kind of like combo like and
Yeah,
different button configurations, but traditionally like the first 11 or so
yeah,
was more of like you pick what they're going to do and then they do it.
they
And
execute it.
but it's still like it's still intense because it's like a game of chess and your enemy is like just dropping bombs on you, and so like it's still very challenging. While that might sound like a slower pace easy game, but it's still
Yeah, you got to
really
predict your
challenging.
next move, really
Yeah.
chess style here. And
Yeah.
and so would I be fair in saying, would I be correct in saying that Knights of the Old Republic Star Wars would be a turn-based game or no?
Yes. From what I understand,
Oh, you've never played.
I never
Oh,
played that
oh,
one.
we're in trouble.
I know. But from what I saw, if I recall correctly, I think that one is a turn-based game
Okay,
where
good.
basically like you're showing up, you're battling them, and
Yeah.
then it's kind of like, all right, you do some damage on me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And that's one of the greater ones that I didn't have on my
Yeah,
list,
and
unfortunately.
they are doing a remake for that.
I heard and I'm
Yeah,
excited. I think I'm trying to stay away from ones that I know they're doing
right.
and I want that they're not doing
Yeah.
to bring back. But anyways, more about
Yeah.
your Final Fantasy. Go ahead.
So that's the Final Fantasy series in a nutshell. And so they did something really cool when the PSP was out, and they actually made a game called Dissidia Final Fantasy. And what this was, it brought all of the main characters and the main villains from all of the Final Fantasies up to that point,
Wow.
which I think was probably like 12 at that point when that came out, the first one, anyways. And they made it a fighter. And so you were actually
Oh no
fighting each
way.
other,
So
and
it wasn't turn
it
based then.
wasn't turn based.
Oh
It was
wow.
actually real time combat. And it was really cool because the combat was more of along the lines of those like Dragon Ball Z games, like the
Yeah.
3D ones,
Yeah.
where you can actually fly around and zoom to your targets. And it made it very anime esque, to where, like, if you ever saw Final Fantasy VII movie Advent Children, or like you just seen, those crazy fights like in Dragon Ball Z or something when you're
Yeah.
zipping around, which, is an
I
anime
love
for
that.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can fly around and you're attacking, one on one. And what's cool is that each of your moves are like your special moves from those games. So like it meant a lot where if you did play these games and you're playing that character you know and love, to then be able to do all of those moves and like dodge
It kind of like
midair.
unlocked everything for you there,
Yeah.
where you were
And
able to do much more than just your turn and whatever
right.
went with that. You unlocked more and you were able to do more freedom. You had more freedom to use that character to its full potential almost.
Exactly. And
Okay.
and so but at its full power too, because normally these like special moves for a lot of them they were called limit breaks,
Yeah.
and you'd have to build them up over time and then you can unleash them.
Sweet.
Whereas in this game, it's like you can just bust them out like combo after combo, then you're
That's
doing
dope.
them. And it had a really cool system to where you had two different types of attacks. There was like your regular bravery attacks and then your HP attacks that actually reduced the health. So the more bravery attacks you did, the more damage you would build up to when you did a HP attack, then it would take down more of their health.
Wow.
So it was a really unique element to fighting games that I hadn't seen before. Plus the fact that it's Final Fantasy characters and the fact that it's like you're zipping around and you feel badass and like super powerful.
Yeah.
It makes for a lot of intense combat where you're just even just going against the AI, though it did have a multiplayer element, it was just really challenging. And you would like try to strike them, then they dodge you, and then you dodge them, and then it's like a real intense fight.
Yeah.
And so this game unfortunately was trapped on the PSP console, which was the handheld PlayStation
Before the Nintendo Switch. I want to
before the
add
Nintendo Switch.
before all of this.
It was
Well, obviously Game Boy was there.
yeah, Nintendo
Nintendo
had
Game Boy.
their
Yeah, they were ahead of the game.
yeah, Nintendo had their hold on the handheld market, but Sony gave it a try with PSP and then PS Vita after. But it was a really cool game for the time, and I think a lot of people missed it because it was on that platform. And they actually did make a sequel,
Hmm.
and that one's even better. It adds a couple more characters.
And what are they running that on? Well, what
That
did they run
one
that
that
on?
one was also PSP.
No way.
Um,
How
you know,
how how long
oh
how
damn you.
long between games? How many years
I
between
think it was like a
games?
couple years,
Yeah.
or so, give or take. But it was pretty awesome for the time. And I though I like fighters and stuff, that's not like a genre that's super high on my list, and I haven't
Yeah.
played too many different kinds of them. But that one is definitely like one of my favorites because I love the characters so much, but also the moves are just so intense, and how you move about. It's so cool. And they did actually make a newer game called
Mhm.
Dissidia NT, and this is sort of like the number 3, you could say, but
Of that
of
series.
that series, and it's actually fairly modern. Like I think it came out a few years ago, and so it actually looks pretty nice. It came out on the PS4 consoles eventually, um, and PC, but it was originally designed as an arcade game.
No
So
way.
they actually flipped it on its head, and instead of 1v1, they
Yeah.
made it 3v3, which in my opinion, it just made the game way too overwhelming and way too much going
Oh, I
on.
could see where that's like hard to follow.
Yeah, it was very hard to follow, and I really liked that 1v1 because it was like a boss battle every match.
Yeah.
And it was just so dope. And I felt like they really dropped the ball on this one because they were designing it around these popular 3v3 team-based arcade games.
Ah,
And the graphics are definitely increased to more of a modern style. All the core gameplay is still there,
yeah.
but they just you know I felt
They
like they
missed the
didn't
mark for
they
sure.
missed the mark. They didn't appeal to the right crowd.
Mm,
And so this one is actually, it's the black sheep of that series, or sub series, and has since, like, doesn't really it get supported anymore. And though I think you can do 1v1 games, but really the core of it was designed around 3v3, and it just wasn't what it could be. And so I wish that they would bring this back and give it new light as these Final Fantasy games continue to drop out. I feel like they could easily go back to the drawing board and look at what made the first 2 titles out of these Dissidia games
yeah.
so fun to play, and how intense they were, and just how they really brought all of these characters, especially from the older Final Fantasies, who were like pixelated and
Oh wow.
like
Yeah.
to life.
Yeah.
You know,
And then imagine that on like next gen or you know higher engines, Unreal.
yeah.
That'd be sweet. Or
Oh
not just
yeah.
Unreal. There are a gang of engines out there, but
Right.
um imagine them on one of your favorites and you're just like, wow, how much potential or just how much they can just expand upon the series and add even more to it.
Yeah, and add even more characters because, like I mentioned, they do focus largely on the
Yeah.
primary characters,
Hmm.
but for pretty much every Final Fantasy, it's about a gang of characters, and you have a party. So you might have anywhere from just 3 to like 6, 7 people that you sort of form a group with to do whatever quest to save the world or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of side characters, and they do bring some of them in these game in the latest one, and even in the sequel.
Yeah.
But there's so much they could pull from, and it could really be like a long lasting franchise if they put more into it and sort of try to revive it. And I think that they could, because the fan base is just so strong for Final
Oh yeah.
Fantasy.
We talked about this episode 1.
Right. And even if you look at Final Fantasy 14 as an example,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, that one is a MMO, or massive multiplayer online game.
I like MMOs.
Yeah,
Those are
and
my
so games like
shit.
World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Online, and
Hmm.
where you create a character and you you become what you want to be, and
It's
you're
like
doing this
subscription
quest.
based, right?
It is
More or less,
subscription
yeah.
based, actually. So it's $15 a month to play, and that's why I don't really play it anymore. But I did play it
Mhm.
for a while.
Was it free at any point, or
They
it
have like
always has been $15 a month
it's
or what?
always been
A month?
15 bucks a month. Yeah,
Jeez, that's like a
you
gym.
know.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not a gym membership. Those are way higher than that. It's like I pay like $42 a month. That's insane.
Yeah, and it's definitely, in my opinion, it's the best of that genre.
Hmm.
And the numbers do show that it's pretty much up there with World of Warcraft, and they're like the top two.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of people actually migrated from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy,
That's sick.
because the online is just it's just so well developed. The the levels, to the gameplay mechanics and the moves, it's more engaging to me, I feel, especially because they adapted for consoles. It's one of the few MMOs of that style that you can play on a PlayStation. um whereas traditionally those are like PC style games.
Yeah, and I absolutely love MMOs. Like
Yeah.
that's like my jam. I love MMOs, and I played Elder Scrolls Online because of you. And I got into that because you know how much I am fully in love with Skyrim,
Right.
Morrowind, the Elder Scrolls titles, that are there, and I liked it. I can't say I love it, but I really wish they would do just a complete. And I don't know, it don't even have to be a pre-existing series. It could be a completely new one, but
Hmm.
somebody released such a captivating MMO to where it's my character. I can, kind of World of Warcraft status where
Sure.
it's like in Final Fantasy, not to
Yeah.
disrespect, that lasts for so long. Cause I mean, honestly, I'm
Yeah.
blowing a lot of money on video games here,
Yeah.
bud. And like, I would rather pay $15 a month and
Uh-huh.
play and upgrade my character and continually see him grow and
Hmm.
add just a whole nother world. You leave. It was kind of like that movie, and I saw maybe like 20 minutes of it and then I cut it off. But Ready Player One, like where they do
Oh,
like the whole different world. Like
yeah.
that's what video games are to me, is like it's a full blown other outlet
Right.
where it's a stress reliever. I go to that, but I want to be able to just completely transform into my character and
Yeah.
just kind of like rock with that, upgrade them, do missions, but like it be unlimited in a sense.
Yeah.
It be endless in a sense where you can keep
Right.
doing that. And I know they have titles now, but something fresh, something
Yeah.
new, different.
Yeah, I feel you. And these games, that's essentially what they do because they're always coming out with new content. And that's why they have a
Yeah.
subscription, is because you're helping them fund new stuff,
Yeah.
for the ones that are really doing it. There's a lot of room in that space to do unique things. One that I'm always, not to sidetrack too much, but I want to mention, one that I always wish I saw come to fruition was, I think it was called Agent, and it was actually an MMO
Yeah.
developed by Rockstar.
Yes, and I was just about to touch on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not Agent itself, but like Rockstar has so much ability to
Oh
do
yeah.
to do an MMORPG, or in Rockstar, and even if you really want to get real different, you can even say any of the Call of Duty games. I mean, there's potential there
Yeah.
to do some weird stuff with that. I mean, it may not be as big as these other ones, but just I feel like there needs to be more focus on that, because I mean, just circling back to Rockstar, like
Yeah.
even with Grand Theft Auto Online, like
Hmm.
I understand that's not an MMO, in a sense, in a sense, and I feel like they could do much more with that. And I know we've talked about that a couple of times, but
Right.
I feel like they need to tone it because it's more or less aimed at like, okay, like caters more to the people that are willing to pay more for it.
Yeah, no, and this is true, and that's the catch, with MMOs, is some of them do fall victim to that, where they become pay to play is what they call them.
Yeah.
And you have to pay if you really want to get the game experience. You have to pay all this extra stuff, extra money to get to where you should be, and have the experiences that you want to. These games do that, and games like GTA, they are in a sense an MMO light, or like
Yeah, I would say
Destiny,
light. Oh, is
So
Destiny? Oh,
Destiny
I've never
would
played
be,
Destiny.
yeah, no, and that is another one that's actually free to play. Where it's sort of, again, a light version of it, where
Hmm.
you do have your character, you do kind of build it up to how you want to play, and you do quests and things. But it's not to the extent of games like Final Fantasy. And but to get back to my choice and why I bring up this tangent of Final Fantasy 14 in particular, is that it actually had a really terrible launch.
Hmm.
And while there were people that played it and stuff, it just tanked, and it did not do well. But then the developers went in on bringing it back, and there's actually a really good documentary on this by the No Clip channel. Um, and it's really worth checking out. It's on YouTube. But the director and the team, they brought it back and they retitled it Final Fantasy 14: A Realm Reborn, and
Hmm.
they actually put it into the story that like this massive apocalyptic event happened and it kind of
Wow.
reset everything, and they used that as a launching point to reboot their whole attempt at making this online game, and it took off, and now
Yeah.
it's like one of the highest played MMOs, and it's sort
Nice.
of like a defining a game of that genre. And so I think that if they really looked at Dissidia Final Fantasy with that same scope and
Yeah.
said, guys, this last one didn't do so hot when it came to the consumer and home market. Um, but let's bring it back. Let's try to do it from scratch, and let's,
Yeah.
look to the original one that, made it so noteworthy. I think they could really breathe new life into it. It's just so damn fun. I mean, I that's like one of the main reasons I have a PSP emulator. I mean, of course, I play the Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker on there too, but
There you go.
this is that other game that like I could always go to and just hop into a quick match, play as like Cloud or Squall or whoever, and just fuck shit up, you know.
There you go. That's right. Now,
So,
I think one thing on our whole topic that we have, which is bringing games back. I think one thing that kind of is a hard dose of reality is the fact that I think that they might be slightly unsuccessful because of the fact that people are so geared towards multiplayer online with your friends or with random strangers, and the appreciation for storyline and offline games has
hmm
completely been depleted or been reduced to close to zero. I mean, you do have a small percentage of people that most likely play offline games exclusively, or whatever you want to say. But then you have MMOs, then you have people that play run and guns,
hmm
stuff like that, GTA, whatever. And I think that it sucks because that's kind of like in the past. That's what we like. And I feel like that, I don't want to say it's dying, but I feel like there's not going to be a lot of appreciation for these games that I look at as nostalgic. And, it may mean that much to me, but I feel like it's old school for a reason because
Yeah.
there's so much more now where there's so much opportunity to be the next Fortnite, to be the next Battle Royale, to be
Right.
the next Call of Duty franchise or Battlefield franchise or
Right.
whatever big franchise. And I feel like, unfortunately, the hardest reality for me is the fact that those games are no longer in because of how much um, accessibility to other things online, and it just opens up plenty of other doors, and that's kind of forgotten slightly.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that's where the market has headed for a while now, because for a lot of reasons, and part of that is that you can just so easily come home after a long day's work. You have like
Yeah,
an hour to kill. You just want to hop on some Call of Duty, kill some people, and hop off. Where
exactly.
people don't necessarily want to invest a full 20-30 hour experience of that's a super compelling story and well produced game. And they're of course they still come out. There's still tons of them, and they're they're definitely not dying. A lot of people say story games are dying, and I don't think that's the case, but
I'm
they are.
playing devil's advocate right now. I'm
But
sorry.
no, no, no. But I think you bring up a good point in
Yeah.
that I don't think they're dying because the fans that do play them are just so adamant about why they're so good, and they support them to the end of days,
Of course.
and I think they'll always have a place. And when you see franchises like the ones primarily, like the exclusives from Sony, are primarily story based games,
Yeah, and I
the
love
ones
that.
that do the best for them.
Mhm.
However, they are expanding into the multiplayer environment, and I guess what I'm trying to say is that while they're not going away, they're definitely kind of pushed more and more to the side
The
as
priority has dropped.
the priorities drop. And I think that is the same for developers, because when you look at it from an economic standpoint, it's like, okay, do we want to make a game that's like a one and done experience, but it's so fucking awesome that everybody wants to play it? And what are the chances of that? Or do we make like a game that has a really fun, repetitive gameplay loop that can suck people in and just can be shared with other people and then naturally grows from that?
It's definitely a money move.
It's a money move.
It's definitely, and I understand that nowadays things, everything in price across the board everywhere with commodities, with, whatever you want to say, it's all gone up, and
Yeah.
in this great state of California, it's
And worldwide
yeah,
too.
yeah, and worldwide, but here, especially here
Yeah.
in our lovely state, it's difficult, and I
Yeah.
understand a lot of these developers, they need to get more bang for their buck in a sense, and they're going to do what's best for them. And I understand that. It's just it's something that I cherish a lot,
Yeah.
and I'm sad because myself, in my personal opinion, I've strayed very far from it, and I definitely, you're one of my inspirations to get back into that because I know that that's something you do in your downtime. You are that few percentage that say, you know what, I had a long day. Let me go jump into, ghosts, or let me go jump
Yeah.
into and I admire that in you, and I definitely want to take after that. But I
Yeah.
know you're with me on the MMO thing though too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
For
but
sure.
and there's definitely, and I'm not knocking multiplayer games, because there's definitely a time and a place, and it's definitely fun when you can get your whole squad or a group of friends together and just collaborate and do this teamwork, and you can have these experiences.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a time and a place for it. But I think you and I both like just these experiences, we want to call them, not even games, that are focused on story driven, just
Yeah.
are so impactful,
Oh
to
yeah,
the
big
point where
time.
we're quoting them all the time,
Oh
and
my
we're like,
goodness.
you know,
Our
what was that
ringtones are
noise?
them, yeah.
Yeah,
And then it'll be that quick look, that glance, like, hey,
yeah,
yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
exactly.
So
And that's part of why we also wanted to touch on this topic, because it just means so much to us, these games, and a lot of them are naturally these single player driven games,
yeah.
because they just mean so much to us, and we want to see them brought back, and we want to see more of that side of gaming.
I would love to, and I really hope developers hear us out here. And if you have an opportunity, definitely, YouTube's a great tool. Look it up on YouTube. They have a lot of walkthroughs. A lot of people have emulators where they go back and they can play these games on PC. And definitely take a look at that, and look up some of the games that we mentioned here. And although the graphics aren't there, I think they're great as far as story goes, gameplay goes,
Yeah.
sound effects, weapons,
Right.
everything.
Exactly. And if you can view it with that lens of context
Yeah,
also, and the same way that you might view a movie from the 90s or
there
80s,
you go. Perfect.
and it might be so impactful, or might have meant so much to you, and it might be kind of cheesy now,
It's
but
cheesy, corny, whatever you want to call it, but and that's it. That was a
yeah.
actually great analogy.
Yeah.
Which is, and oh my God, I absolutely love it. Don't get me started. That's
Yeah,
another
that's a
podcast for
whole
another
nother
day because,
yes.
man, I'm a big horror guy. I'm a big 80s, 90s horror guy too. My God.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, any of the Friday the 13th, any of those like cheesy, they were the
Yeah.
best. The Thing, John
Slasher
Carpenter's The
film.
Thing. It's
Oh,
like the
oh, yeah.
graphics. I mean, yeah, but they did it right. They did it with heart
Yeah.
and soul, and
Heart and soul.
they did real, almost real makeup. They did real. There was no CGI. Well, if there were, it was very
Some.
moderate or very minor.
Yeah.
But
And it
like,
was looked terrible now.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah. But yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why we discussed bringing these games back because we would definitely love to see these games, of course, this is all us, but
Yeah.
it's our opinion. But these are great games, and if you get a
Right.
chance, you should definitely check them out.
And it's the same way that, just, to further drive out that analogy, that they remake movies all the time,
Yeah.
For instance, for those that don't know, Scarface, the Al Pacino Scarface,
No.
is actually a remake of a film from it was like the 34 or something.
Oh
Or
wow.
yeah, it's actually an already there's already a Scarface before that,
Yeah.
you know. But and that goes to show you the power of remakes, because that's the one that everyone remembers now, and that's the one that people can quote, and so
Say
that's
hello
why,
to my little friend. They
right,
suck.
and that's why we look to these developers and we
Yeah.
think, you got something for me.
Hey.
Because we want to encourage, while it might not be easy to stick to that type of genre and that type of game, and it might be easier to come up with an idea of a multiplayer loop, we definitely encourage you, those about that are out there in the video games, and to designing them, to go that route, and then also those that play them,
Yeah.
to take some more time and to support these types of games,
Definitely.
because that's how they're going to get by, and that's how we're going to see more of them.
Nice.
But
Of course. I
yeah.
agree. 100.
So yeah, I mean, I think that about wraps up this episode here.
Episode 2, baby.
Episode 2.
We made it this far, man. I'm excited. That's it. This is the final episode, actually. Just kidding. Thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate it. We also, I and Arze Poetic here definitely want to send our appreciation to everyone and anyone that's listened to the podcast on all media. We have it on. We have it on Apple Podcasts. We have it on Spotify. Spotify is actually our breadwinner here. And we also have the YouTube up as well, right, with just the audio, and then just we'll have a picture up there or whatnot. But thank you guys so much for tuning in for episode 1. Really, really appreciate it from myself and Arze Poetic. We can't be grateful enough. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Definitely. It's super appreciated. Especially those of you that may not be into gaming as much, we appreciate just listening to us babble on about our, these games and experiences that we're so passionate about. And for those that are into these games, or whether or not you're familiar with the ones we played, I mean, and those that aren't, check these titles out. If you found something interesting in what we said, like, go ahead and look that up on YouTube, like you were saying earlier. Look up a playthrough, look up a trailer. And you might find yourself wanting to play one of these, or even just watch someone else play. And that's
I
also
do that a lot.
Yeah, and that's also why we do what we do, and making videos and streaming from time to time, because we want to share that experience with you, whether you've played these games or not. And so yeah, definitely check us out here. We're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And down the road, we'll probably be adding some video elements.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
So far we're more or less going to be trying to stick to a monthly schedule. And we got lots of ideas for
definitely stay tuned.
Future episodes and some video content, so stay tuned.
And we're taking requests as well. So if anybody, if there's feedback or anything you would like us to speak about or have featured on our next podcast episode, let us know in the comments on YouTube. And we have a YouTube channel with the same name as our podcast here. So definitely give it it probably won't come up in YouTube search, but you could try a shoot for it. We'll link it.
We'll link it. And if you know either of our channels, we actually have the links on our own channels as well. And we'll be happy to guide you to that content. And so this is Arze Poetic signing off. That's ARZE Poetic on YouTube, Twitch. Check me out.
This is T3hreeKings, T3hreeKings, signing off. Check me out on YouTube. That's all I'm doing now. It's just YouTube. I have a Twitch channel. I don't use it too much.
Are you dabbling in the TikTok too, though, right?
Just a little bit. I'm figuring things out too.
Yeah, I might go that route too for little things,
Yeah,
but
I think for me, nowadays with people being short attention span, I'm definitely working off of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, catch me on YouTube primarily though. T3hreeKings, T3hreeKings, signing off again. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Nice.